Welcome back to the AI Daily Brief Headlines Edition, all the daily AI news you need in around 5 minutes. We kick off today with the latest in the DeepSeek saga, where less than a week after the R1 model took the world by storm, hundreds of companies are now scrambling to block their employees from accessing it. According to cybersecurity firm Armis, 70% of their customers have requested website blocks. Competitor Netscope have seen 52% of clients block the site. Nadir Israel, the CTO of Armis, said, "The biggest concern is the AI model's potential data leakage to the Chinese government. You don't know where your information goes." It was, of course, extremely well publicized that the model came from a Chinese company and that the data security left a lot to be desired. The terms of service clearly stated that DeepSeek had access to keystroke data and would share it with the Chinese government on request. Still, it seems that some US government employees were logging on from their work computers. Bloomberg reported that the Pentagon blocked DeepSeek late on Tuesday, meaning that employees had access to it for 2 days. They wrote, "The Pentagon's IT experts are still determining the extent to which employees directly use DeepSeek's system through a web browser." The article also noted that US military personnel had downloaded earlier versions of DeepSeek models to their workstations in the fall of 2024. Bloomberg paraphrased their source, stating, "At the time, the downloads didn't raise concern with the Defense Department security teams as the connection to China wasn't clear to them." Now, of course, this isn't necessarily a problem if the source is referring to downloading and running the model locally. The concern is instead about running DeepSeek models on cloud services that are hosted in China. Still, it seems like military personnel are actively using the model. Nicholas Chalain, the CEO of Ask Sage, a government-authorized software platform, said that thousands of Pentagon employees are using DeepSeek through them. Separately, even more security issues with DeepSeek have emerged. Cloud security firm Wiz conducted penetration testing on DeepSeek over the past week. They found a publicly accessible database belonging to the firm. Wiz wrote that they had full control of database operations, including, quote, "the ability to access internal data. The exposure includes over 1 million lines of log streams containing chat history, secret keys, backend details, and other highly sensitive information," end quote. They also noted the exposure allowed for, quote, "potential privilege escalation within the DeepSeek environment, which could have allowed control of internal systems." The vulnerability was responsibly disclosed and quickly secured by the DeepSeek team. It's not clear whether anyone else accessed the database, but Wiz researchers told Wired, "It wouldn't be surprising given how simple it was to discover." And yet, if the security environment surrounding DeepSeek continues to be troubling, what's going on underneath continues to show its value. Cash, an engineer at X, wrote, "What I'm seeing, the DeepSeek R1 algorithm basically works and is being reproduced by a lot of people. I didn't expect that. I think it's basically over now." Mark Andreessen pointed out that DeepSeek was now at 23% of ChatGPT daily active users, with far more daily app downloads. Cash actually freaked out a little bit, basically saying that this was the best example of why there is truly no moat in the frontier models. They wrote, "Don't invest in OpenAI. Do not sign any agreements with them. Do not do any business with them. I've been busy all weekend and just got plugged in. I've seen enough things across 4chan, my X feed, my own experiments that confirm it's over. There is no moat. There's no data labeling moat. There is no data moat. There barely is a compute moat. It's over. I don't think people actually get it." Now, speaking of DeepSeek and compute, Mistral board member and Andreessen Horowitz partner Anjali Midha says that DeepSeek's innovations will only increase GPU demand. He's been tuned into releases from the Chinese lab for the last 6 months following the release of Coder V2. At the time, it rivaled OpenAI's GPT-4 Turbo for coding specific tasks, right at the top of the leaderboard. His logic is that chip demand won't slow down as a result of more efficient models. Companies will simply do more with the compute they can obtain. He said, "When people are like, okay, Anj, Mistral has raised $1 billion. Does DeepSeek mean that all that $1 billion is completely unnecessary? No, actually, it's extraordinarily valuable for them to be able to look at DeepSeek's efficiency improvements, internalize them, and then throw $1 billion at it. Now we can get 10 times more output from the same compute." He also noted that open source projects have an edge through free technical labor from people who want to use the products. Closed source rivals have to pay for all the labor as well as the compute. More on OpenAI's recent comments around open source in the main part of the episode. The major change, he argues, from DeepSeek is that nations are beginning to wake up to AI as the next foundational infrastructure, akin to electricity and the internet. He believes that countries should start to consider infrastructure independence, meaning that each country should think carefully about whether they want to rely on Chinese models or Chinese-hosted data, or if they want to use Western models that follow Western laws and ethics. Still, at the moment, his main problem is getting enough inference. He had a message for companies thinking about ditching their data center plans, requesting, "If you have extra GPUs, please send them to Anj." Lastly today, the EU AI law ramps up with their first major compliance deadline. As of Sunday, regulators can now ban the use of any AI system they deem to pose an unacceptable risk. The definition is aimed at AI deployments that interact with citizens in an assortment of contexts. A non-exhaustive list includes AI used for social scoring, AI that manipulates a person's decisions subliminally or deceptively, AI that exploits vulnerabilities like age, disability, or socioeconomic status, AI that attempts to predict people committing crimes based on their appearance. Companies involved in these use cases can now be subject to fines regardless of where they are headquartered. The maximum fine is 35 million euros, or 7% of annual revenue from the prior fiscal year. Rob Summeroy, the head of technology at the British law firm Slaughter and May, said that the fines won't be imposed for some time. Organizations are expected to be fully compliant by February 2nd, but the next big deadline that companies need to be aware of is in August. By then, we'll know who the competent authorities are, and the fines and enforcement provisions will take effect. That's going to do it for today's headlines. Next up, the main episode.